Zach McCormick, joined by Ruston Kelly in the current studios. Thank you so much for making it down here and playing some great songs for us today, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I love coming in here.
Your fantastic new record is called Pale Through the Window. It's out now. And the last time you stopped through the studios, you just put out that kind of pandemic era record, The Weakness. Been an eventful couple of years in your life ever since. You experienced some personal growth.
Yes.
You fell in love. You found some new connections with faith. And it's right there on this new album. But it sounds like you kind of had like a start that was a little trickier with this new record. There was some writer's block at the start of stuff.
Yes.
Take us back to that early part of the album process for Pale Through the Window.
I mean, I was just like annoyed. I was like annoyed at what seemed to be an inability to like find the spark. It wasn't that I was having an issue with creativity per se, but it was creativity with purpose. I enjoyed playing guitar. I mean, I play guitar every night, I play piano, I play an instrument every night. But as far as that translating into some like, journalistic scribe of what's going on internally or versus, externally, I just couldn't like meet the two. So I kind of wondered what the problem might be. But I felt it wasn't just like writer's block. I felt it kind of in my steps and how I generally was assessing my day and the quality of my self-interaction and my interaction with other people. So it seemed to be more of a wholesale issue, which I thought was tantamount to a spiritual malnourishment or something going on.
So you were, you're working through this. It's not just your creative life. It's also your personal life.
Yeah.
It's affecting your family, all that kind of stuff. And you're trying to kind of work through this. It strikes me that as a songwriter, you got a real knack for like exploring pain, exploring sadness.
Yeah.
And on this new record, it seems like you're trying to kind of tackle the challenge of writing about sort of the inverse of some of those emotions, like joy and happiness. What did you like about trying to explore writing about that sort of inverse, and how did it go for you? What was the process like?
I think, like in a retroactive way, looking back into it, it's kind of the same thing about like, you can't try too hard to do something. Otherwise, like you won't really do it. Or if you do it or achieve it, you've squeezed it so hard, you don't really even know what it is. And that's how it was with like writing from places of pain or suffering. Like I didn't want to do that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That was
like
that
wasn't part of the plan was to just be like not feeling good ever.
Yeah.
Or abusing myself, with drugs. But I lived it and it was healing. The interaction between me and the muse per se was a healing interaction. Whereas writing about that experience could be funneled into like a therapeutic act. And it was interesting because this time the kind of delivery of that inspiration was already a healing sense to it. So I wasn't quite sure what to do with it. So I did kind of like what the genesis of writing from those other transparent, painful places. I just went and experienced what it felt like to be joyful. Like in joy isn't a light emotion. It's such an arcing emotion. Pleasure, spikes up and down. But joy is something that has to be almost prayerfully studied by oneself, because it doesn't, just because like today was great doesn't mean tomorrow is great, and you can still say that you're in a period of joy in your life. And I was in that period, and I wasn't really sure how to like put that into song. And so I just like lived in it. I try to remain present and mindful, and I guess have like a grateful awareness to even just the little moments in the day that I hadn't really thought about ever. And over time, I just seemed to like that inspiration just kind of kicked in like it always does when you understand what something is.
With the Pale Through the Window record too, it's not like it's, Walking on Sunshine for, 12 tracks.
Yeah,
Like there's definitely an emotional arc to it throughout the record. And I don't want to like give people the wrong idea.
Yeah.
But, you're writing these sort of like open-hearted, vulnerable love songs in a way that I maybe hadn't heard you write before. And there's been a lot to be happy about in your life recently.
Yes.
Like you were saying, both the career and then also your relationship. And it's not just like something that you're vaguely alluding to either. I mean, your new sweetheart is like on this album contributing to the actual text of the record, like,
which is pretty cool.
I was going to say, was it cool? Was it scary to connect those parts of your life?
It, like anything that's worth undertaking artistically, there's just like a natural thread that you keep pulling from. There's no forcing it. You know what I mean? You don't try to make this experience magical. You can hope for that, but I would even keep hope kind of blurry in the distance with it. And I have found that the less I try to squeeze to a situation of how I want it to be and just let it be, it's like 10 times better than like what that hope was that I used to strangle things with. And a great example is when she came in to record her part, because she plays fiddle. I had to convince her, she's a bedroom musician. She's not trying to like la 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 in front of anybody, but I got her to bring that out. And then it just so happened that her dad was coming into Nashville from Pittsburgh, and he's an upright bass player. And it was on the last day that we were recording. And then come to find out that the rest of the family was coming in town. And so I just had them all come over on the same day. The timing, I couldn't have made that timing work. And he was able to record upright bass on one of the songs about his daughter, and she sang and played on it. And and we all just like listened to the record. Those were the first people that I got to share the record with. So it was even better than I hope it goes well with her. Yeah. Like in the studio, not only was it magical, but like her dad was able to come in and play on it. And then her family came in and were the first people to hear the album. Yeah, that's like 20 times more special than I.
Well, it's. I mean, that's a brave moment. Hi, Partners family. By the way, I'm also going to show you my new record. I'm probably a little bit creatively still trying to get into a place that you were happy with it. That's got to be both cool and a little scary, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I think they. I'd been around them, and they're incredible people. Like if you look up any article about me, like drug addiction comes up like first. And there's a joke now that we have, or like someone will be like, oh, I'm worried. And I was like, oh, about my checkered past.
Yes.
But it was such a moment of like, I think they really understood like the quality of love that I was feeling towards their daughter by this like piece of work that's devoted, to her.
And you can hear it on a couple of the songs that we played on this record, including during your in-studio session today. A song that you wrote early in the romance that I read was kind of like a real skeleton key to unlocking that rest of the record was House in the Country. Can you talk about how that song came together?
Yeah, I didn't really expect myself to be writing any lines with chickens and goats in it.
Yeah. You're not a farm guy?
I mean, I am. I worked on a chicken farm and grew up kind of in the South around farms, but like, I don't know. She kind of unlocked that in me when I found like that's, one of her dreams. And I was just kind of thinking like, what would be a song that like would make her smile? You know what I mean? Like about that, writing from that perspective. And she was getting ready for dinner or something. And her roommate's an amazing songwriter. And I just like grabbed her guitar real quick and I felt it coming. And so I just started singing the first two lines. And I was like, oh yeah, like this is the perfect way to start writing for this record, is this dream that we kind of have together. Yeah. Yeah. And then it was sort of spooled out into like a couple of week period where you were writing like a ton of the material for this record, right? Yeah. Yeah. I went through like I felt like a kid. Like I was like come home from school and throw my backpack down and go straight up to like, instead of playing video games, I like went straight up to write. Like, I wasn't in school. I was, I'd wake up and I would write for a couple hours before I'm a staff writer at Sony for other artists.
Yeah, totally.
So I would go in and clock in, and then write for other people, and then I could not wait to get home to like literally throw my backpack down and run upstairs to my office and start writing for the record, and I'd write till about 10 or 11. I did that for about 2 weeks.
That's awesome. Ruston Kelly talking about his new album, Pale Through the Window, here in the Current Studios, talking to me, Zach McCormick. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
One of the tracks that really captures those sweet early days, Pickleball.
Oh, boy.
And it's a song that really isn't about the sport, but I have to ask, like, how's your pickleball game? You have an athletic background. I mean, you were like a junior Olympian type
I
cat.
was,
So are you nice on the court there?
Yeah, I was like a kind of a Will Ferrell, Blades of Glory type
absolutely.
figure skater.
I don't know if people know this about your background.
That a lot of people do, and a lot of people don't.
Yeah, totally. It's all part of the checkered past.
It's all part of my checkered past. That's where it began. Was on the ice.
Yes.
With blades of flame. No, I called it extreme skating.
Yeah.
I was skating to Nirvana and Pearl Jam.
Rad.
And I was like, I'm not doing a triple Salchow. I'm doing a 900.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are calling these moves, but this is a 1080.
You're like, I'd be out here on my hockey skates if I could be.
Exactly. And I would, the hockey dudes would always come out, early, and like, they did the thing where it's like, we're hockey players and you're like, just like, prancing around, with a pinky up or something like that. And so I challenged them to a race. And I'm just gonna say, smoked them.
You dusted these guys?
Yeah, they got completely bucketed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Challenge is out there. This is the state of hockey in Minnesota. Ruston Kelly will dust you on skates. Be aware.
That's absolutely true. Get ready for this smoke.
So this song Pickleball, I love that you filmed it on a pickleball court for the video too. Do you like to play? Is this something?
Yes, I do. My pickleball game is okay.
Yeah.
She's better than I am.
It's good to have a good doubles partner.
Yeah, like when I asked her to go on like a first date, and she recommended pickleball.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about like a first date being wholesome like that,
You're like, we go to a bar. What do you mean?
I thought that's just what you do.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? Yeah. She's like, do you play? And I was like, 100%.
Totally.
Duh.
Yeah, of course.
I've played every day of my life. Called my friend and I was like, first off, what's pickleball?
Yeah.
Second off, the date is on. So I just showed up. And yeah, I have never played worse,
Totally.
It must have worked, I guess, because we got a second date.
Little, there's something charming a little bit about, fumbling and bumbling through some
That's
athletic.
right. But she's really good.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah. That's good to hear. Awesome. You reunited with the longtime producer, Jared Kay.
Yes.
You recorded for the first time with the longtime members of your touring band on this record, too. Like, what did each of those personnel decisions bring to the record, and what do they mean to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were all part of the plan to kind of return, not to old ways necessarily, but return to when we did make music together, when there wasn't any stakes to it.
Right.
When there was like barely any team involved, like there was barely any like, how many listeners are you, like how many followers, and like how many tickets, and like when we were just making music to just make it and like just tell a true story. Not that we haven't done that on all my records, but as things progress, there's more of a business to run.
Expectations.
And there's expectations, and a lot of people have opinions on how that should be shaped, and those are welcomed because you want to win as a team. But I wanted to go back and just say, like, even shutting off the idea of approaching this professionally at all. Like, let's get all the business taken care of. Everyone get their and then we're just going to be like boys like we are on the bus, like when we were touring. That's why I used my touring band. We wanted to return to the kind of chemical interaction that happens energetically on stage between us because we know each other so well.
Yeah.
And then me and Jared just kind of telepathically being able to communicate in the studios from working together for so long, just to bring the original joy of making music that means something to us just by the sheer act of doing it. That's what I wanted to capture on record. And then we could kind of go and like work it.
Yeah, totally. When you have people that you're familiar with, when you have that chemistry, you're maybe able to work a little more like intuitively.
Yes.
You're not thinking about it as process as much. You're just kind of going straight into creativity.
Yeah. Also, my guitar player is a very sought after guitar player in the session world in Nashville. Yeah. Juan Solorzano. They call him the Blake Mills of Nashville. But he doesn't listen to anything prior to studio work, and this was no different. And a lot of like the guitar like solos or riffs that he kind of coined on this album were just off the cuff, and he played them it was first take stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So he kind of locked into it.
Yeah, it's kind of we all kind of did that.
Yeah.
TK, my dad, who plays on steel, is notorious for doing the most incredible take ever, and then we're like, all right, just do that one thing again. And he's like, well, I don't know what I did. Yeah.
I just did it.
So everyone kind of played that way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I got one more question for you here. You had a hand, speaking of your pro songwriting career here, you had a hand in one of our listeners' favorite songs last year.
Whoa.
Annie DiRusso's Wearing Pants Again.
Oh, yeah.
We brought her in for a session here at the Current that she did, and
Love Annie.
it's just a cool record. I was wondering how the two of you got connected and what it was like working on that song.
Annie and I are we love each other so much.
Yeah.
We just instantly became friends so quickly. She opened the first leg of my Weakness tour.
Awesome.
And to be honest, out on the road, I'm kind of like I'm locked in on my thing, like in my band and crew, and obviously like I kick it with other supports. But like there was something about her and her crew that I just recorded a thing with Samia, who her and Samia are best friends, and I had met Samia through doing music stuff, and they were best friends. And it turned out that when we played in Charlotte with Annie, that Samia was on tour and had a day off in Charlotte.
Yeah.
And like we all just hung, and I don't know. I met Annie. It was backstage at Iron City in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And I just sat in her dressing room and we just chatted I was like late to sound check. And I was like, I love this person.
Yeah.
And we've stayed homies ever since.
That's great.
Her and my partner share the same birthday. So
cool.
No shocker there that we get along.
The Zodiac lined up for that
That's
one.
right. That's right. Both Virgos.
Oh, there you go. Cool.
Whoa.
So happy belated birthday to both of them.
Yes.
We're doing this in early October.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because you strike me as both people who have like one foot in whatever you want to call it, Americana, country, et cetera, and one foot in the rock world, kind of given the balance of both your sounds. Did you find like a natural affinity working with her when you were writing together like that?
Yeah, because I think, man, like the gap that maybe I would bridge of those worlds to someone like Annie is with a lot of the aesthetic that comes visually with band. Like when Annie gets on stage, it's like a whole spectacle to see the show, but like it wouldn't mean anything if there wasn't a delicate care to the craft of songwriting.
Yeah.
Annie's such a songwriter, And I think like, and a lot of those artists, and especially in the alternative world, are like that.
Yeah.
They really want to get the best song possible. It's not just like a audio shtick, for some type of aesthetic to be brought out. They want a song.
Well, that's beautiful, man. You put on a great song there, and you put a bunch of great songs in this new record, Pale Through the Window. Ruston Kelly, thank you so much for joining us in the Current Studios, man. Pleasure. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, man.
Sorry about the sweaty palms.
Hey, dude, I'm sweating too, so don't worry about it.
The Current is public media made possible thanks to member support.